This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
All right, so I did something yesterday I haven't done in 45 years. And no, it's not thinking optimistically.
Okay. I don't know what.
Okay. I played Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, why?
Why, you ask? Because Michelle won it in a secret...
I literally have never played that game.
Yeah, it's... really, that's not surprising to me.
I know.
Although you definitely have some dorkiness to you.
I do, but not in that area.
Right.
Not in the fantasy world.
If it was Dungeons and Cub players.
Right, exactly.
So Michelle won this thing in a silent auction, okay? And yeah, did you ever notice that when they say you won something at a silent auction, it just means you paid more than everybody else?
That guitar right there on the wall.
You won, right?
I won that, yes.
Just because you paid more than no one else was willing to pay. So about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, she comes home from one of these auctions. She goes, we got a dungeon master to come to our house. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Let me start working on some safe words, right? Well, it was a very different kind of dungeon master.
Oh, that's too bad.
So we won a evening of playing Dungeons and Dragons with the kids with a real life dungeon master, which I don't know if you really need to get certified for this or not, whatever. So the guy shows up with, from Dungeons and Dragons, and he was from Dungeons and Dragons Central Casting. Okay. I mean, if I'm like, what would a dungeon master look like? This is this guy, right?
He's about to leave. Hey, Joe, you forgot your glasses. Oh, yeah. That's part of the costume.
Right. He comes with a big cloak and the wizard's cap or whatever. But he's carrying these 4 huge books and 7 pounds of dice and a map.
Boy, it sounds fun.
And a pizza. So the pizza was pretty cool. So we all sit down and he sets up. Again, you've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but he sets up for an invasion. Basically, he puts the map up on the dining room table. He gets this little screen in front of him, so when he rolls the dice, nobody gets to see what which is not cool.
That's
so he hands out these character sheets, which are like NASA spreadsheets,
Boy, this really sounds great.
And by the way, the dice, those are not normal dice. They're dice, 4-sided dice, 20-sided dice, whatever. So he gives everybody our characters.
All right.
Okay. So Michelle is like this elf that's magical, right?
Okay,
and
I can see it.
Julia's like this cleric and Lila, they all got great ones. I was the dumb barbarian. That's what he gave me with the lowest possible IQ and wisdom. Right?
Okay.
So we spent the next 74 hours on this quest to find Adale, which was a kid that was possessed by some evil spirit in some tower in some medieval town. Right. So just want to let you know, I'm on this high of Dungeons and Dragons, and hopefully Michelle, if she's listening, I don't know if she listens to the show. Yeah. Bid on the wine basket next time, right? So you've never played Dungeons and Dragons?
No, and I stopped listening to you about a minute and a half ago. It's time for...
Well, I stopped listening at about hour 12.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie production on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
And, Gronk the Barbarian.
Yeah.
He didn't have any potions. He didn't have any spells.
Well, this is fascinating. We should just make the show about that because it really is interesting.
I'm sorry that I shared a little bit about my life with you.
Okay. You didn't. You shared something about some fantasy life that doesn't exist.
Okay. So I'm the bad guy for trying to have family time with my family.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you heard of Monopoly? Yeah. We could have talked about Ventnor Avenue. We could have talked about...
is it Venture?
Whatever it's called.
Right. It was
No, there's a Ventnor, I'm pretty sure. There's Ontario and Ventnor and Connecticut.
Yes, those are the light blue ones.
Light blue ones?
The kind of crappy ones. The low rent ones.
Yeah, exactly.
What were the really crappy ones? Mediterranean, Baltic?
That's correct. Yeah. See, how often
do you play Monopoly?
I haven't played since Sean was very young.
I loved playing Monopoly when the kids were really little.
Yeah.
Because they followed all the rules.
Right. Right, exactly.
I'm going to go on record. I hate playing games. I hated playing games with my kids when they were young because... They cheated nonstop.
Well, the rule for me when we were playing Monopoly, Sean and I, was you go around the board once, and whoever has the most properties after once is the winner.
So 6 minutes, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. Well, let's...
Do you have a story to share?
Yes. So this, very topical right now.
Okay.
As you know, with the world, things aren't going that great.
Yeah,
in this
on
country.
fire, pretty much on fire.
This comes out of in the United States. Okay, man refused entry in the United States as border control catch him with a bald J.D. Vance meme on his phone.
Wait a minute. He was stopped because he had a bald
Yes, a 22-year-old claims he was denied entry to the United States and harassed by ICE agents after they discovered a J.D. Vance bald meme on his phone. Sean Kempfer from Mount Prospect. No, actually, his name is Mads Mikkelsen from Norway, a Norwegian tourist. Arrived at New Jersey's Newark Airport on June 11th when he was pulled aside by border control and placed in a cell.
Wow, they're even taking the white guys now?
I know. Norway, what the hell do we have a problem with Norwegians?
Hasn't he specifically said, why can't they all be from Norway?
Yeah. I think he actually used that.
I think he did say
I think
that.
he used the word IKEA in Norway.
Yeah.
And so he was traveling to the States to visit friends. Somehow he got stopped and they found the meme of do you remember the J.D. Vance bald memes?
Yeah, he's got like a fat cheeks.
Right,
exactly. I was a little offended as a fat cheek guy myself.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the MAGA thing.
Yeah.
Right, obviously, and I've made that pretty known.
Right.
I got to tell you, I'm on board on this one. We don't want these little bastards coming in here.
These Norwegians.
With their bald memes making fun of bald guys, right?
I think this may have something to do with the bald thing.
Yeah. So be careful. So you're going to
Ireland
in October.
Yeah.
You got to scrub your phone from like any of our episodes.
You know what? That's a good point.
Every episode that we
think about all of the episodes that we've done and the things that we have said.
Yeah.
If we ever get pulled aside.
Yeah. Do not. Yeah. Scrap your phone.
Okay, including this episode because we just talked about that. And now we're going to talk about something else about Donald Trump. Did you know this week that he has come out with his own line of fragrances?
I saw that this morning. Yeah.
So this is on his Truth Social page. He posted this himself. Trump fragrances are here. They're called Victory 4547 because they're all about winning, strength, and success for men and women. Get yourself a bottle and don't forget to get one for your loved ones too. Enjoy, have fun, and keep winning. Go to Get Trump Fragrances. All right, so this is a real thing. I'm not making that up. It sounds like a bit, but I'm not making it a bit. I don't think that the slogans are very good, however. And between the two of us, how many advertising degrees do we have?
Well, we have 3.
3.
Right. You're only bringing 1 to the table. But
I am, but it's one of the 3. Yeah. And so I was working on some slogans.
Weren't you an hour short of getting a degree?
Whatever. I actually have the paperwork. I can prove it to you. Doesn't matter.
Well, this Norwegian had paperwork, and it didn't matter to him either.
So I was kind of spitballing, trying to come up with some of these workshopping. Tell me what you think about these, all right? And if you have any you want to throw in, feel free, or you can help me. We're in a brainstorming session. There's no wrong answers.
I'm on Team Trump right now. Okay. I'm not going to.
All right. Well, then I don't know how you're going to like some of these. All right. This one, Trump fragrances. They're perfuming the cats. They're cologning the dogs.
Okay, not bad. Not bad.
Trump perfume. He'll know right away you're not from a shithole country.
Okay.
Not bad.
Like that bastard from Norway.
Yeah. Trump cologne. Is that a gallows to murder the vice president in my pants, or am I just happy to see you?
Little wordy. Okay. You learned that in master's degree.
Okay. Yep. All right. This is why I need your help.
Okay.
This is Trump perfume. Very fine smells on both thighs.
Okay, that might be the best one.
Okay,
right? that might be the best one.
Trump cologne.
Yeah,
brings tears to her eyes as she calls you sir, bigly.
Okay,
not so good. No. How about this one? Trump perfume, a big wall of smells, and Mexico will pay for it.
Okay, see, yeah, there you go.
Trump cologne. Grabs her by the...
Okay. I know what you're going to say next.
Well, I'm leaving it blank because that's how advertising works.
Theater of the mind. You let so you did attend that one.
I did go to 2 or 3 classes during my college career, and I did pay attention.
How much are they? $49 or $47? What is how much?
They're like top of the line. They're hundreds of dollars because they're like Chanel. Or
did
something.
you hear that his Trump phones?
Yeah.
Are actually some of it is made in China?
Oh yeah. All of his hats, the MAGA hats, they're all made in China.
Yeah.
Everything's made in China.
Hey, we got a review.
Okay.
And this is from Tri-Farm on Podtracker. Mm-hmm. A celebrity podcast that doesn't take themselves seriously. Of course, this is for our other show.
Okay.
You'll come for the celebrities, but you'll stay for the banter, the bizarre trivia, and the fact that the hosts aren't trying to go viral, which is good because we haven't.
You know what? Why haven't we tried to do that?
So that was from Tri-Farm on Podtracker. So thank you for that.
Well, it's time for another feature.
Time now for Studio Walls.
And the words of the prophets were written on the studio walls.
So, someone very important from our childhood is celebrating a birthday this week. Burt Ward.
Oh,
Burt Ward. If you are someone of a certain age, you know who
Robin.
Burt Ward is.
Yeah.
He was in Batman.
Right.
He played
Robin.
Yeah, he played Robin. You looked at me like, oh my God.
No,
I forgot what he played.
No, Robin.
Yeah. He played Robin. And so we've tried to get him on the show. I've tried a couple of times, and you tried a couple of times. We've never been able to get him on. But we did get on Mike Toomey, who is a comedian.
He may be the best impersonator in the world.
He does Batman. This one's going back a ways in the archives. We're going all the way back to Minutia Men episode number 168.
So young back then.
200 episodes ago. And here's what Mike Toomey had to say.
That first time that I did comedy when I was 16 years old, that was one of the voices that I did because Adam West owned that role. So many people have played Batman since, but the way he invented that way of talking with the stopping and the starting and apparently the Joker has escaped from jail, and I haven't a moment to lose. And if you follow Adam West's career, at the very end, he was the mayor on Family Guy, and which I'm sure he made way more money doing than he ever did doing Batman. But it's weird how the voice kind of changed. He went from talking like this, Robin the Joker is okay, and he became more like this at the end because he was older and his voice had a little more warble in it. He was an 80-year-old man, but he's still Adam West.
That is the first ever Adam West impersonation of the 80-year-old Adam West in history.
Right.
We've been trying to
But he was still funny. They told me you couldn't plant sausage seeds, but look what happened.
We've been trying to get Burt Ward on, and he's totally blowing us off. Can you blow a call into him? Maybe that could help it out a little bit.
You don't want me to call because my experience with him has never been good. He always comes off as kind of what would I say?
Dick?
Trying to get him, you would say he's a dick. Yeah. Okay. My first couple experiences with him. One, I read his book. Okay, and when you read a person's book, you're reading it from their perspective, and they kind of spin it in such a way that they're the good guy or they're the victim. Or you're reading this, you're going, even his autobiography, he comes off as a dick.
Yeah. Pete Townsend says it like that, too.
I know. Pete.
I was so disappointed when I read
Oh, I know. Pete Townsend was basically, I did this, and I bought a boat.
Yeah, right. I decided I needed some more money, so we went on tour.
Yeah, exactly. I sold it. I sold my music to some fucking product that I could care less about for another boat.
But my first actual meeting or run-in with Burt Ward was a radio show, and he was a guest. And my friend was producing the show, and he said, hey, call in. We'll call you up, and you can come in as Batman and talk to him, right? And he's talking, and I'm doing the, Robin, I've been looking all over for you. I don't know what the Riddler has done to you, but I'll beat him brutally. I'm doing all this, and nothing. And then finally he just goes, what is this?
Oh, my God.
You're a morning radio show. What do you, of course,
come on, dude.
What is this?
So maybe we don't want him on, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's Mike Toomey, who is on the WGN TV morning news.
And we appreciate his time then and now. Hey, I got another story. Or do we, were you just about to say something?
No, just that, we bring guests onto that show pretty semi-regularly, and every time we see Mike, he's very nice to us. And he just had me on opening day at the Cubs game this year. And
we usually bring bagels. So
we do.
Oftentimes. So really for all news stations, across the country.
Yeah.
You have us on, you get bagels.
Yeah.
2 schmears.
And that's not standard practice. No. This is the extra stuff that Rick and Dave bring.
I understand they don't make a lot of money in those places anymore.
Yeah, I know.
So that could be their day's food.
Okay.
Hey, I got another story here.
Okay.
Employers are hiring etiquette coaches for Gen Z.
Oh, that's...
Because young workers, many in the office for the first time, need to be taught basic skills from hygiene to eye contact.
Oh, my. This is going to be good.
Gen Zers, who are basically people who are born or who are now
like our own children.
13 to 28, and our kids are basically Gen Zers, are having a really tough time adjusting to the workplace. And employers are fed up, basically.
Yeah, I get it.
Evidently, these workers seem a little itty-bitty entitled. I don't know if you knew that.
Hard to believe.
In a recent survey of hiring managers and office administrator, Gen Zs want to be promoted only after a few months, treat the office like their bedroom, show up in sweats or skimpy office siren fits.
Yeah,
I don't know about
that's
that.
what I do.
Okay, I can see that right now. And FaceTimes from there. I mean, there's just a host of issues.
Like obvious stuff that we did not need to be told.
Now, some employers who are... They have to hire these people because we're all retiring, right? So it's like,
we're all going to be dead soon. Somebody's got to run this place.
So they're hiring literal etiquette managers to come in and teach Gen Zs how to navigate basic workplace etiquette.
This is a telephone. You answer it. Hello.
Right. You talk to people.
Right.
Ariana Plouch, an etiquette manager in the San Francisco Bay Area, says that she has to educate young workers and routinely tell them some of these things. She said this is all true things that she has had to tell Gen Zs.
Oh, I can't wait.
First of all, you can't call in sad.
Oh, my God.
Mental health matters, but HR needs a little bit more than your vibes were off.
Oh, my God.
Pajamas are not business casual. In my classes...
Oh, I see pajamas everywhere.
Students wear pajamas all the time.
Yeah.
You can't mute your boss in a Zoom meeting.
Wow.
You shouldn't bring your emotional support lizard into client meetings.
That's a good plan.
Yeah. This one is one of my favorites. Not every conflict is toxic.
They're called conflicts.
Right. It's called somebody borrowed your stapler. Get over it. Right. It's not appropriate to send a Slack message that just says vibe check. Don't bring your mom to your performance review. Didn't we do a story about Gen Zers bringing their parents to interviews? Right. You can't put out of office on your calendar just because Mercury is in retrograde.
No, you cannot.
Don't refer to your boss as bestie. Stop adding slay or not slay to project feedback.
Oh, wow.
Don't ask your coworkers to like and subscribe during a slide deck presentation.
Oh, my. Hit the like button.
Hit subscribe. You cannot expense your crystal collection as emotional infrastructure. And by far my favorite one, the copier is not gaslighting you. If it gets jammed, it's just a jam, okay? Oh, and you can't change your email signature to include your Hogwarts house.
You know, I used to, we had youngsters that worked for us when we were in our 40s.
Yeah, sure.
And I used to call it hitting the paper wall. Like, they'd come up to me, I called this guy, and he didn't call me back.
Right.
Like, oh, I guess we're just going to quit then. That's a great idea. Let's not try anymore. Yeah, you can't get past that one. You called him, and he didn't call back.
I don't know.
It's all over.
Right. It's never happened before. We don't know what to do. Check the employee manual, what you do. Right.
I like it. That's good. All right.
So when you were, I would imagine, what would have happened if you would have called in sad to Stephen Gary?
Oh my God. Oh my God. I called in once where I was like being taken to the hospital for food poisoning.
Yeah.
And they're like, right. I'm like, here, wait, talk to the guy.
Here's Dr.
the nurse.
Patel right here. Oh, you're not doing good.
Yeah. All right, I've got a story for you. I've been to a lot of events since our last show. I probably, like...
We just did one Friday. Wait.
No, I mean, not events. What do people in the real world call them? Parties.
Okay. Really?
Cocktail parties, that sort of thing. Family was in town here, and family was in town there, and I've seen
Anybody
a lot
die?
of... No, not this time.
Okay.
No deaths. But the point is, I talked to a lot of people, and a bunch of people that I didn't expect to were listeners of our show. And the subject that people brought up to me the most over the last week or so is the ridiculousness of my not being able to go number
Bathroom.
2 in public.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that was insane.
Yeah. I actually, on the way here, stopped to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
That is a true story. So anyway, I did some research into a history of toilets in television, in popular culture.
All right.
Just to show that I'm not crazy, all right? Because you know what year the first time a toilet was even discussed on television?
Well, when was the mid-30s was when it started?
Television. Let's say late 40s.
Okay, late Honeymooners, maybe?
No. 1957.
Okay.
An episode of Leave It to Beaver. Now listen to this, though. CBS standards and practices were against showing a toilet, or a bathroom for that matter, on television completely. It had never happened. On the other hand, the toilet was integral to the plot, which revolved around Wally and Beaver buying a baby alligator as a pet and keeping it in the toilet tank.
Okay.
Now, they would not allow the toilet tank to be shown on the TV because it's a toilet.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And so what they did is they compromised and they allowed him to show the upper half of the upper tank of a toilet.
So not the bowl. Or
not the bowl.
Okay.
Just the upper tank.
Okay.
And that was the first time a toilet was ever on television.
So where like the plungery thing or the cock and ball joint?
Yes, exactly. Okay. And now, just 3 years later, in 1960, Jack Parr briefly quit The Tonight Show because one of his jokes was cut out, and it was a joke that used the letters WC instead of water closet, for a bathroom. Right. He quit because they wouldn't let him do that joke, and then he decided, I guess it's not that important.
And this is only 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1971.
Okay.
Audiences were shocked after All in the Family broadcast the first toilet flush ever heard on American television.
Okay. Norman Lear, that trendsetter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you remember, it was Archie was in the I remember this. I remember like
because it was all the rage, right?
Yeah. And it happened more than once. When Edith would go upstairs and all of a sudden, Edith, are you up there? Flush. Yeah. It was just funny.
Yeah, sure.
But so I just wanted to point out that it's not like I'm crazy. It's just that I grew up in a world that it was not
literally
cool to
every other person of your age group has gotten over that.
Yeah, other people are just a little more. I'm like the Gen Z person. I'm calling in sad right now.
How does this story, or how does these conversations come up when you're meeting somebody? Hey, love your show. What's the deal with you and the toilets?
Well, they actually two different people brought it up, and the first person brought it up said, "You were kidding, right, about that? You've never gone?" I said, "No, I'm not kidding." He goes, "You were." That whole Romania story, that's true? Yeah, that's true. Are you kidding? You didn't poop for a week? No, I did not. Hey, I'm not proud of it. You made me tell that story.
You know what? I think you are a little proud of it. I think that.
Why would I be proud of it?
This is the hill that you're dying on.
Yeah.
Quite literally, maybe at some point.
It's a little freaky. All right. Time for one last feature.
Time now for Celebrity Potpourri with Rick and Dave.
So last week, you kind of started off with a new way of doing this bit, and somebody suggested it. They said that if you guys should talk about celebrities
who have just
died this week.
Right.
And see if you have any stories about them. Well, all right. So we have 4 celebrities this week that have died. Dave Parker,
which sucks because he was going to be.
I know
he was going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame when we go there next month.
You've got a story about Dave Parker. You just told it.
Yes,
we were going to see.
Right, we were just about to see.
D. Wayne Lucas. He was a horse trainer and won 15 Triple Crown races. He died this week.
I've lost money at the racetrack.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I have no stories at all about him. Lalo Shifrin was the guy who composed the Mission Impossible theme.
You mean the
now,
dun
dun dun. You know, I never met him, but we did use that Mission Impossible theme a lot when I was doing radio. When I first started working with Landecker, we were low rated, and so no celebrity guests would come on the show because they went on the higher rated shows. So I used to go on a mission with a tape recorder and just kind of go to wherever they were and try to get hey, do you got a second to talk? No, just to get that on tape. Sure. Then we can say that we had a Roseanne Barr interview or whatever. Right. And it was a bit. Well, one time I did that bit, and it was for the former vice president of the United States, Dan Quayle.
Okay.
And I went up and I was the only press person there.
No one else cared?
No one else was there. I'm like, oh, okay. I may actually have a chance here. And so I got to the front of the line. And
really? There was no other press for the
No press at all.
Where was it?
It was in the basement of Marshall Fields. They had a book section there. He had a book out. No press.
Was he wasn't vice president currently?
No, it was in the 90s.
Okay, so all right.
It was after he was vice president. He didn't have Secret Service that I saw either. But anyway, I went up to him and I said, "Hey, Mr. Vice President, do you mind if I do a quick little interview?" And no, I just wanted him to say no,
right,
or some sort of we can't,
Right.
He goes, "Sure." I'm like, oh no,
I got to make up questions. Remember when you spelled potato wrong at that kindergarten class?
You know what my question was? I only asked him one question, and it was, "What's a Hoosier?"
Okay.
Because he's from Indiana.
Sure.
And he gave me a 45-second answer, and so I had the bit. But as we would play it back the next day, we would use the Mission Impossible theme. And so I'm like, dun, dun, dun. He's on a quest.
Right.
And the most successful one was Dan Quayle.
Didn't Dan Quayle, while he was vice president, wear a jacket that said Vice President Dan?
Could be.
I swear to God, I have a vision of him with the presidential seal. Is there a vice presidential seal?
I don't know.
But I remember him because no one knew I'm vice president. It's like a name tag from Stuckey's.
That's funny. I think only the current one is allowed to wear a seal. Or use this. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. All right. Then
you mean J.D. Vance with the meme?
Yes.
The bald meme?
There is one more celebrity that died this week, and that is Jimmy Swaggart.
Yeah.
Do you remember Jimmy Swaggart?
Sure, the preacher.
Yeah. I think I found an audio clip of him.
Didn't he go to jail for tax evasion or something?
No. Or maybe. But the main thing they got him for was
hookers.
Yeah. And then he had if you don't remember, he was a televangelist.
Yeah.
He was one of the most famous televangelists.
Money. He
was always asking for money. And it turns out that he got caught with a couple of hookers. And it didn't.
Didn't Tammy Faye Baker's husband?
That was in that same era. In fact, it might have even been the same year. Here's a little clip of Jimmy Swaggart after he gets caught going on TV to apologize.
I have sinned against you, my Lord. And I would ask that your precious blood would wash and cleanse every stain until it is in the seas of God's forgetfulness.
Okay. And my Venmo account is...
And I quite understand the blood washing away stains, but whatever. You do you.
Yeah. He obviously doesn't know how to do laundry.
So this happened shortly after I started working for Stephen Gary.
Okay.
And
no parody song?
No parody song. But they wanted me to get Jimmy Swaggart on the phone.
Sure.
Which,
how hard could that be?
Well, pretty damn hard, because the whole country was trying to get him on the phone. It was like the OJ thing. It was huge.
Sure.
So I did find out a church that he would preach at, and I called the church, and somebody at that church actually gave me the phone number of a cousin of his.
Of Jimmy Swaggart's
Of Jimmy Swaggart.
Okay.
Now I started thinking, holy crap, Jimmy Swaggart's cousin is Jerry Lee Lewis. In real life.
Oh, really?
So I called
they do kind of look alike.
They're cousins.
Yeah.
I called the number, and I'm thinking it might be Jerry Lee Lewis, but it was some guy named Mickey.
Morton Blainstein.
It was Mickey. His name was Mickey. Anyway, that was my Jimmy Swaggart story. 5 years later, maybe 10 years later, I was watching some sort of a music show, and Mickey Gildy, the country singer, came out. And they introduced him as Jimmy Swaggart's cousin.
So that's who you talked to.
And I think that's who I talked to that day.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are my stories.
Are there, this is not my team, but are there like preachers on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Joel Osteen, isn't he one of those
tons
dudes?
of them.
And they are just...
And in the South, they're ubiquitous, as they like to say. All right, we have people to thank for the show. First of all...
Tony Lasano.
Absolutely.
Ed Silla.
What about the Dungeon and Dragon master?
Yeah.
What was his name or her name?
Garcarthian the Fourth.
Okay. Thank you. Garcarthian.
I don't really remember. I don't remember that. My name was Gronk the Barbarian. I told you that, right?
Well, Gronk is the perfect name for you.
Right. I resemble it. But I did not. And what sucked, first of all, I don't like you belittling the Dungeons and Dragons story. But really what sucked while
my kids play it. My kids play it.
That's
Johnny plays it.
But so when we were on this quest to find a Dali or whatever, whenever I would have an idea, all my teammates, which is my family, goes, "You've got a wisdom level of 2. Shut up."
Yeah. So it's pretty much like real life.
Right.
Yeah.
I did not have.
What was the name of my book about parenting?
Father Knows Nothing.
Yeah.
Available on
Exactly. All right. Well, so thank you to Tony and to Ed. And we'll be back again soon with another episode
next week.
of
Minutia Men.
Minutia Men. No, I can't even hear you. What are you saying? What are you saying?
Proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Were you calling in sad?
Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at RadioMisfits.com. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?